as the Rangers Journal now.
Welcome to the Monday Night Pod for the Rangers Journal. My name is Billy Rankin. I'm joined by a great panel this evening to go over probably the things that have been going on in the last couple of days at the club, but also looking to the future as well, and maybe spending limits and what we can look forward to over the next couple of weeks as the transfer window opens, and we'll go into a wee bit for there. So I'm joined this evening by Mark. First of all, mate, how are you?
Yeah, all good, mate. Another Monday done, so not too bad.
Now, I don't want to jump the gun or anything, Ryan, but I was going to come to you first, but I seen your mic was muted. So are you controlling that? Yeah, you did it. Well, how are you this evening?
I'm doing fine, mate. Doing fine. Eagerly anticipating every day as it comes. Friday was obviously a great day for us and a massive one in the club's history, but still sitting, refreshing my phone constantly. Eager anticipation of the manager coming in.
I agree with you. It's a momentous day that I think we'll look back on, but Rangers fans after all, and we just want more and more and more. Ricky, how are you? Thank you for joining us this evening. I've not seen you in a couple of weeks.
Hi, Billy. Yeah, no, I've been away. I've been busy, and it's great to be back, mate. I do like my kind of Monday nights, especially preceding the games at the weekend. It's all kind of fresh, but yeah, it's great sort of news at the moment. Everything's sort of on a buzz. It's on a high. It's great. We're looking forward to every single day, every single week. I dare say the next sort of 2 months is going to be horrendous with all these kind of rumours with signings coming in, and But I know we're going to touch on the financial fair play. I think it will be exciting to see if we can get that balance right, with getting the squad right, players in, players out. But we'll probably touch on that as we go along the next day, and I'm looking forward to it.
I'm sure we will, but I don't think you've been on. I'm sure Mark and Ryan were on Friday as the news broke. So we'll get your opinion first of all, Ricky. Obviously, we knew this was coming, but was it good just to get it over the line? And how did you feel on Friday afternoon when you heard the news?
Oh, I was elated, and speaking to some lads, on the forum, whatever it may be, and I was just, because it was dragging on, I just kept on thinking, was there going to be a last minute sort of walk away? There's all these wee things that go through your mind because let's face it, guys, we were financially miles behind Celtic, and they could have kept it as at arm's length really for as long as they really wanted to. They opened their purse up. Now it's an even playing field. Yes, they've got money in the bank, but so we saw it comes out again to the financial fair play, and recruitment's key. Eric's major decision. There's been a couple, the Fontaines have come in. Thirlwell started today. Purdue's come in as the director of football. So it's all looking good. And as long as the direction from the top is there, and we can get the recruitment right, it's key. It's got to be key. We can't go blowing millions that we have done in the past couple of managers and bringing in players who just haven't produced the goods. We've got to get it right. And if you look at the kind of team on a negative side, every single part of the team, more or less, probably needs strengthened. We ain't going to do that. So the next manager is key to making sure that we get the guys and we play them to their strengths and add them to the squad with quality. And I think that's what we're all just hoping for. Get us, a successful season and closing that gap with Celtic.
Ryan, we're going to touch on the manager slightly, just for a couple of minutes just now. We're expecting, with Thirlwell, Thewell, how do you even say his name? Is it Thirlwell? They gave a statement today saying that the manager is going to be announced in short order. I'd like you refreshing my phone to see if it's happened whilst we've even started this pod, but nothing yet. It comes down to the candidate that we're maybe thinking it's leaning towards, which is maybe just my opinion, but Ancelotti, more being a coach than a manager. What do you think that means for the club, the way it's set up as a whole? It's a big difference for us as fans if that's the way we go.
Yeah. I've said a couple of times on the pod that a head coach is a lot easier to replace than a manager. A head coach is very much a small piece of a large puzzle, whereas a manager is a large piece of the puzzle. If you look at, I drew kind of reference to, you look at Alex Ferguson at Manchester United, where he basically effectively was Manchester United. He was the manager, but he done so much for the club when he was, effectively a father figure to so many players. There wasn't very much happening inside inside Old Trafford that he didn't know about, and obviously Carrington at the training ground. And you just have to look at how much a massive miss he is now. Manchester United have never been the same and possibly never will be the same on the back of losing such a massive manager in their history. And you maybe draw a comparison to Walter Smith does as well, that, Walter announcing during the 9-in-a-row season, when we're going for 10, that he was leaving, and just, the devastation that it had on the club. There was such a backward step, and obviously came back and McCoy's took on, and we'll all remember what happened after that. But losing such large characters and such large, egos, the aura that these guys have within your club, they're almost irreplaceable. So having head coaches and the way that modern football is nowadays, I think is the way forward. That you have somebody that is easily replaceable, that you have the kind of same structure within there, and you have well-known faces. So I'm all for it. Whether Ancelotti is the right man for the job will remain to be seen. But I'm all for following the actual style and the model they're looking to do.
Mark, we couldn't really get a different from his dad, I guess, with Carlo being such, he's like that Ferguson figure, like that Walter Smith figure, and we're maybe looking at him coming in to be the head coach, maybe the Michael Beale kind of role at the club, as opposed to the Steve Gerrard. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think it's the way modern football's going, and I think if you look at our past, sort of our last 2-3 managers, where it's been said on here numerous times, have had keys to the kingdom, and then you have that whole structure where their players don't fit into the next manager's style, and you're replacing 10, 12 players. So I think with this structure going in, with Ancelotti, if it is him, or even just the structure I think is going to be in place, it'll be a lot easier. We're hoping it's not the case. We're replacing the manager because he's done really, really well and somebody wants to take him, as opposed to replacing the manager because by Christmas time we're out of everything and it's back to rinse and repeat, unfortunately. So I'm hoping that we get it right, as we all are. But I certainly do think that the new style of it and the new structure of it will be easier to maintain going forward. If there is, as you say, look, we all want success, and we get the success that we all drive and crave, then I think that the manager has got that potential to move on. But then you have, like we're trying to have, as a conveyor belt of one left back goes and you've got another one, or a right back goes, then I would believe that we should now be in a better structure off the part, that we're already going, right, well, where's next and what happens next if he was to move on, as opposed to sort of this long period. We know it's uncertainty, and sometimes I hope this helps, and it's just a wee safe pair of hands. I think all things lead to Ancelotti, doesn't it? The two boys that are coming in, ex-Everton, and the Everton connection with Ancelotti seems to tick a lot of boxes, or they're going to pull a rabbit out of the hat, and Sean Dyche is going to rock up tomorrow on it. That's one of the two. So let's see how it goes.
I did hear there is another manager in England that's looking like he's going to be losing his job despite winning a trophy recently, but we'll maybe not talk about him. Mark, when it comes to the setup and the people above, we as Rangers fans, we quite like to hear from the directors. We want answers to things, and it looks like these the American guys aren't really going to be coming out and giving us statements week after week, so it's going to kind of fall on the shoulders of Thelwell and Purdy underneath them perhaps as well, but maybe not so much, and maybe Patrick Stewart. Are we going to have to get used to things being run differently as well?
Yeah, there's every chance in that. I hope one knows, such an easy touch, and it's just another honest mistake, and I hope the Americans bring a bit of backbone. I think we've missed in the last couple of years as well, but I think it will be probably Patrick Stewart, I think. There's no covered himself in glory, actually, I don't think, really, since he's came with a couple of statements, so I'm hoping he gets better guidance as well from that. But yeah, I'd imagine that, as opposed to Kavanagh and Patrick, obviously, standing up and telling us what's happening. I think it will be sort of within. But look, how long have we been crying out for a better structure within the club? Probably since 2012, give or take. Mm-hmm. David King came in with a wee bit and gave us a fanfare, but obviously I think now, hopefully, we're now only looking upwards.
I don't even think Dave King's mum calls him David. It's always been Dave. Ryan, I'll come back the way we came to you. We have heard as well today of various members of the backroom team in regards to the hierarchy, even joining SPFL boards and certain things. That's going to be important as well, because we've certainly had enough complaints as Rangers fans that it's very one-sided when it comes to the organisation side of the league. It's not a particularly interesting topic to go into, but it was, I guess, pleasing to see that we've got people on these boards now.
Yeah, definitely. I think we've got to be looking to be raising the standard of Scottish football across the whole board. We've spoken at length about so many aspects of our game, which is just completely laughable, from refereeing standard to the acceptance of, such poor sponsorship deals. So we've got to be able to hold these guys that running a game accountable. So getting, highly qualified professionals onto these boards, obviously with a Rangers voice, and speaking from our side of things, and obviously not speaking from the other side of the city, which we believe has been going on for far too long. So I'm all for getting our face, and if we're poking our face in when it's not welcome, I don't really care. We're, in my opinion, the biggest team in the country and the biggest club in the country. So we should be holding, everyone else to court as far as I'm concerned, and asking the questions and the difficult questions, and sometimes these guys might not have the answers to, but they better start sharpening their pencils because we're coming to town.
Is that Ricky? You're down south. How do you feel that they've done? This is Marag Parati and the 49ers at Leeds United. Obviously, they've got them into the Premier League, but it's taken them a wee while to kind of wrestle control down there. I mean, maybe you don't hear any more than us, but what's the kind of opinion of them down south?
Well, they've just achieved their promotion and very well deserved as well. For those that was following the Championship this year, they were rampant, scoring lots and lots of goals. But the 49ers came in there, I think it was 2018, and they started with 14%. Razamoni was an Italian fella who basically rescued Leeds from the doldrums to sell their stadium. 49ers came in with 49%, and it increased it to 25, up to 39, 44, and then they got to 51. I think it was in 2022 they became the kind of majority holders then. But in that period of time, they brought some very, very good players in. They spent some money, but it's very rare that they've sold those players on for a loss. They've all come in and kind of doubled their values. Rafinha, for example, Ruta last year, he came in 15 million, sold them for 30 down to Fulham, or was 30, sold them for 60. They don't seem to lose, so they have a good structure when it comes to, again, I mentioned it, recruitment. Now, I don't know whether that's going to be mirror imaged across the 49ers with the other sort of franchises as well. Have they've got some sort of a due diligence and how this all becomes about. I'd like to think, with this link to City Group and all of this stuff that goes on, it's all in its infancy yet, Billy, but it's all just positive for me. And there's one or two players down at Leeds at the moment who potentially were good enough for them in the Championship, but now they're going up a level to the Premiership. They'll be strengthening that squad, and maybe one or two of those players could come up and bolster our squad. Again, for financial fair play coming in, you don't pay for them; they come in loans, and it doesn't affect that kind of scenario. So there's definitely one or two players down there that it could help bolster our squad, which would make us a better, stronger squad with the quality we're going to add with the money it's going to be spent. So again, it's just positive. But the city of Leeds is absolutely buzzing and can't wait for. The 49ers have announced the stadium from 36 and it's going to go up to 54 over the next 3 seasons, and the Leeds fans are buzzing with that. 20,000 waiting list for their season tickets, so they're all really buzzing about it. So it's all positive as far as Leeds concerned as well. But I know the lad's going to talk about that in more depth tomorrow night because Craig's coming on and he's an actual, first and foremost, a die-hard Rangers fan, but he just happens to have a season ticket at Ellen Road. And he sort of speaks to quite a lot of people sort of within the club, so he's got a lot more sort of insight than I have. But that's tomorrow night for anybody that's interested in what's good about the 49ers and what we can hope they're going to bring to us as a club as well.
No, thanks for plugging that, Ricky. No problem at all with that. Ryan, I've got a fondness for Leeds that really just kind of comes from when they did well in the Champions League a good, 20 years ago, something like that now. And also a night out I spent with Alan Smith and Mark Viduka and a few other players in that team that just happened to be in the same pub after the game that day. Boring, nothing each with Chelsea, unfortunately. You get your eye on any of the Leeds United players? I'm afraid I don't have any up-to-date stats on any of them.
Nah, to be honest, it's not a club that I follow. I spend all my time following Rangers as much as I can. So I don't really have too much kind of knowledge of them. I did watch a game that they played Sunderland towards the end of the season. I think they scored a goal in the last minute down there. I was out in Berlin with the missus on holiday, We just so happened to be drinking in a pub that the football was on. I don't know how we managed to end up in a pub that had the football on, but we were watching that, and to be honest, their football was great. They seem to have a kind of real never die kind of attitude. They played right until the very last minute, and they ultimately won the league, as we've seen. Even when things were getting a bit ropey for them towards the end, the players had the bottle to get it over the line. Something that I don't think our players have had for the last few years. So they seem to have a kind of a good unit and a good setup. They've obviously sold a few players as well, including Glenn Kamara, who we all know. So. But I couldn't actually pick out an individual kind of standout player, to be honest. I couldn't tell you.
That's okay, mate. It was probably bad form of me just to come to you on that, because I don't know anything about their team either. Scotty had asked us to talk mainly on this podcast, Mark, about financial fair play, and in particular, you don't have to have seen it. I'm just going to bring up a few points, and that's an interview I did with Stefan Bolzan, who's a finance expert down south, Man City fan as well, so he knows a thing or two about these things can work. So I've made a kind of list of like 6 points that he brought up in that podcast, and I'll go around the houses and get all your opinion on it. But the very first one was that UEFA's financial fair play rules, at least since the breakaway attempt a few years ago, are a lot softer now than they used to be. So can Rangers go for it, do you think, as regards caution to the wind with that?
I'm pretty sure that a couple of other teams have just took the fine and went, right, we're going to do it. And look, if that's the way that they're going to do it, I think, will the 49ers do that just coming in? I don't think so. I think they'll try and play by the books, but I don't think the fines are as severe probably anymore as what they once were because of the breakaway league. But I fully expect them sort of to stay within the guidelines and do that. Whether that means that we need to go and, I don't know, rename the training centre or rename something, then I'm not quite sure. But to be honest, it's always going to be, some people call it training centre, Murray Park. It was Murray Park that first opened all the years ago. Some people still refer to that. So is that going to make a big name or a big difference if that name was to change to a different training centre? I don't think they would change the name of Ibrox, I don't think. But it'll be interesting to see. I think there's ways around it. I certainly think there's ways around it. And I remember start of this season, I think it was Everton. Funny enough, Everton, Newcastle and Aston Villa are all sort of a wee up-and-coming player to each other's team. There was a wee roundabout went round and they all made 25-30 million, which was lovely for each sort of a academy product, which goes right into the coffer. So there is ways and means without breaking hundreds of rules, I think.
Ryan, if I can come to you on the kind of same point, although when I was thinking about this afternoon and what we could talk about and how you kind of highlight these things, I actually think we've got a fair amount to play with regards, how much we could spend. They mentioned in the statement on Friday that they're going to inject immediately 20 million. That, again, a couple of podders said a bit of a red herring. They're not going to come out and tell you exactly how much money they're investing in the playing squad for obvious reasons. It'll be used against them when they go to sign players. But have we maybe got, especially if we sell someone as well over the summer, a bit more leeway that we maybe don't have to actually even contemplate breaking any rules?
Yeah. And I might be sticking my neck out a wee bit here and being a bit bold, but a realistic figure, if something like £50 million was spent over the summer, it wouldn't surprise me. And I'm taking that £20 million into account when I'm thinking about that. We spent £16 million last summer, and that apparently was a summer that we were cutting our cloth with Diamandi coming in, with Bizrami. There's a few others coming in, but I think the total kind of transfer fees all came to about £16 million last summer. In a downsizing season. And if we do sell somebody, we've obviously got some assets. We're looking at move on, Cifuentes, Dowell, Davies. So that all of a sudden very quickly finds yourself up at the kind of £40 million mark, and that's before you start thinking about maybe selling Nicholas Raskin as well. So if somebody said to me now, do you think Rangers could possibly 50 might be ridiculous, and 50 actually might even be too much, because I actually don't think we're as far behind as what we think we are. But there's a war chest there. We just need to put it in the right hands, because we gave Beale a lot of money. We gave Beale more money than we gave Gerrard. We gave Beale more money than we gave Gio as well. Guys that actually were successful for the club. And we gave this untrusted guy a lot of money. And I hate to mention his name. So if we bring in a credible guy and there's somebody actually overseeing him and he's accountable to somebody, then I've got high hopes that we can do something this season.
Ricky, Leeds sold well last season. I know that about them. They made over like three figures. I don't know how you say this. Over 100 million in player sales. They didn't necessarily invest that straight back into, another top name star. In fact, I think they bought 5 or 6 less unknown players and actually had a better team, from selling their stars. That might be what they choose to do here as well, isn't it? They might just choose to, go for someone in a market that we don't really know about.
Yeah, Daniel Farker basically lost 3 very important players within 24 hours of the window closing last season, and he had to go with what he had, and he brought some players in. Solomon came in from Tottenham, who I think they're probably going by. He was on loan, but he's had a great season. The fella called Nonto, they brought him last year, and he's an Italian international, and he's sitting on the bench. Players like Somerville, who are away down to Bournemouth, and you could go on, but yeah, they've recruited really well. They made £5 million on Glenn Kamara. They brought him in for 5 and sold him to Rennes for 10. So that they have history there of spotting a player and turning.
Not quite as good as 50,000 though, Ricky, is it?
No, but they have doubled their salaries. Like Ruta, for example, came in for 30 million, and he went for 65 million to Fulham. So they've got a history of spotting a player. They're not scared to spend that kind of money. But yes, again, Craig's going to touch it tomorrow night. This £20 million that they were alluded to and Ryan had mentioned there, Leeds spent 15 million on 3 players last season and brought in 2 on loan, and it just totally transformed that team. So they won the championship by spending £15 million.
Yeah, we'll move on. I'll stay with you, Ricky, just now, because another thing that kind of came out in the interview was why are these guys wanting to invest in Rangers? Well, the small pond, there's only us and Celtic really that compete for the league every year. Where are they seeing the investment, or where would they see the return of their investment? Because alone this week they've chucked in 90 million plus 90 million. So where are they going to make it back? His point, Stefan's point.
European football, Billy. It's European football. It's as simple as that. There is no money but return for winning the SPL. It's European football, and they've already stated that they want to compete at that level of football. That's where they think they're going to get us to. Now, we don't know if money is going to drive a European league that we'll be invited into. Sometime down the line, we don't really know that. It's been muted, the breakaway league, and then someone would drop in behind that, and that's a kind of level of league that we would probably be into. But if these guys can get us competing in the Champions League and in the foreseeable future, and we're competing regularly, getting out the group stages, then all of a sudden, we're a level ahead now. We're in that sort of a top table, and I think these guys are not coming in just to have it's the same with the manager. I know we're waiting, but if it was to be Ancelotti, he's not coming to fail. He's coming because these guys are putting the structure in place. They're going to give him the money. They're going to back him. He's got to believe in himself. But, it's just all positive, Billy. For me, these guys have not come in, spent the best part of £90 million to fail. It's as simple as that. They're billionaires. They're from a franchise. So, as Ryan mentioned, 50 million. I don't ever see that getting spent in one season, but not within the SPL. But it's the small fry change to these kind of people, even the chairman, he's not the 49ers, and I think this is how we're going to get away with potentially Leeds if they ever to get to Europe and we're qualifying. There's that sort of a hurdle you've got to go over, because you can't have owners of 2 teams in the same competition. So a bit like Nottingham Forest, I believe the manager, the Greek guy who owns Nottingham Forest, has stepped back, isn't he? And there's some other chairman in there because he owns Olympiacos, the guy. So there's then a conflict of interest, because you've now got Nottingham Forest. When they were going for the Champions League, they didn't quite make it, did they? And that's why he stepped back and handed the chairmanship over. So these are the kind of things that the 49ers must have discussed this at the table, how this was going to, and I reckon that's the reason why the chairman isn't a 49er.
If I can just take this minute to mention our sponsor for the podcast, it's After the Match I Go, and you get a 10% discount if you go over there and use the code Journal10. So you can either scan the QR code on the screen with your phone or head over to www.afterthematchigo.co.uk and you get 10% off your match memorabilia over there. Ryan, it's good news for us that they're coming in, obviously, but the other side of the good news is they're going to want the Champions League money. They're not going to want the Europa League money or the Conference League money. That would just be a consolidation price, whatever that word is. They're wanting the Champions League money, so they're going to invest in a squad that is capable of doing well and reaching that every season. So that can only be good for us and our prospects of winning the league.
Definitely. Sometimes in business you need to spend money to make money. So if they need to invest heavily in the playing squad, first of all, fine. I went in with we're doing obviously the takeover, and Matt Mayoko was good enough to give up some of his time to come on. And I did go in a wee bit heavily. I think the passion kind of took over a wee bit for a second, but I did come back in and thank him for his time and everything that he's done for the pod. The amount of free time he's given up for us, to be honest, he's been phenomenal. But I did kind of strongly emphasise that he needs to kind of relay the information on to, Andrew Kavanagh and his consortium that, you can paint the lines in the car park and you can develop the stand and you can make, 5-star food in the concourse. See if you don't get it right on the park. There's absolutely no point in doing it because simply the fans won't be there for you. You can add an extra 10,000 seats into the stadium to deal with the waiting list. You need to get us successful in the park because if you don't get it successful in the park, everything else you're doing on the outside of it is pointless because it's, we're starving for success. We want it and we want it badly and we want it now. It's been mishandled for too long. So Champions League, yes, great. I'm more worried about winning the league next season. Champions League would be lovely. It'd be great to see some, money coming into the club. I'd be terrified in the names that would be coming to the coming days because I had a look at the names that have qualified. There's 5 English teams, 4 Germans, 4 Italian teams. And I'm looking at it thinking, I don't want a season ticket for the matches. I want a season ticket for behind the couch because it could be wild. Some of the games that could be going. And that's where sometimes you maybe think, right, you want to be in the Europa League where you're competing and you're enjoying it and you actually feel as if you've got half a chance of winning it? Or do you want to take 5-0 beatings every second week, which could possibly happen? So I'm desperate for us to win the league. That's the thing. That's the be all and end all. I want to be the Kings of Scotland again. That's where I want to be.
How did Matt take your emotional outburst?
I don't think I understood a word I said, if I'm being perfectly honest. Curry invited him for a night out and it just went zoof right past him. Curry actually left the pod about 2 seconds after he left. Said there was somebody at his door and I said, is that your translator at the door? So, but no, I kind of tried to relay the passion, obviously as respectfully as I possibly could, but obviously I need to remember he's from a different part of the world and a different culture, so I didn't want to come across as the angry Scotsman. So I did say, look, thanks very much and, thanks for everything you're doing. We're really looking forward to this and, let your guys know if they do well, we'll be right behind them.
Yeah, he did a great interview with Scott, and I got to talk to him as well, but I really didn't bring out anything more. I just wanted to get a chance to talk to him as well, because knowing these guys personally, he gives you insight in what they might be thinking. And when I'll come to you on this one, Mark, the format change in the Champions League, do you think that makes it more appealing as well to come in and we'll have a chance of qualifying with, 11 teams or so? How many? I can't remember the break-off point, but if you get in that top position, you go straight through, and then the ones underneath it, there's basically more teams are going to get through to the next stages of it.
Yeah, there's definitely more teams. I think it's down to, there's 36 teams in it, and sort of the top 24 or something the way it works. I think top 16 go through or so many. So yeah, but I sort of agree with Ryan. See next year for me, I think a successful season if you end up in the Europa League and you go and do well in Europa, later stages and win the league. I would snap your hand off for that as opposed to, we're in the Champions League every week. But look at the last time we were in it, Napoli, Liverpool, we got a couple of downs that you sort of don't recover from at the weekend. I think the first and foremost is winning the league. It gets you sort of a less qualifiers, but Celtic further behind you, because obviously then as Billy mentioned earlier on, Ricky mentioned earlier on about the imbalance of the money. Then obviously the quicker they need to start spending money. Right now they're getting everything they spend back as a freebie because we're so good in Europe and no other team is, they're playing less qualifiers and getting sort of our money through our good hard work. So I think for us, I think we need to play 3 qualifiers, which is going to be really, really tough to get the Champions League. When we're all looking at, you're going to need to sign, what we're thinking, 10 players potentially. Many we keep them. How many are we going to do? So how ready is that squad going to be when the Champions League qualifiers come round? What is it? Probably 6 weeks this week, I think. 22nd of July, roughly. Or midweek commencing the 18th, I think, give or take, something like that. So there's a big turnaround going to happen, and how quickly can that happen is a slight concern. But for me, number one priority is win the league.
If I can come to you in a... Sorry, Margaret, didn't mean to speak over you. If I can come to you, Ryan, because you're at the ground a lot more than I am, being a season ticket holder, but there's a comment here from Mark about the old Rangers shop still empty. What's your opinion on that? Do you think there's another thing we could use it for? Or move the shop over there even?
See, when Mark says the old Rangers shop, is he referring to the one opposite the Loudon, or is he referring to the one that used to be the Mega Store at the corner of the Copeland?
I assumed the Mega Store, but maybe Mark can put in the comments what he means, and we'll...
I mean, obviously they done the kind of due diligence on it to make it a pub. I think there was the G51 Sports Bar that it was meant to be, and that project basically gets shelved to decide that it wasn't going to be as successful as what it was going to be. I'm wondering if there's and I'm wanting to talk about a gym, right? But I'm wondering possibly about a gym in that area, because how would it, I'm sure there's lots of guys that would love to come and train in and around the stadium. I can't think of a pure gym or any of these other gyms that are in and around that kind of part of Ibrox. So I think it'd be good to have that, and you could maybe have the odd first team player drop in that would maybe do a wee guest appearance once a week. Former players, the corner of the Copeland Road. Scott Arfield's desperate for it. I think Scott Arfield's had 2 applications to turn it into a pub, rejected. Glasgow City Council had concerns there was too many licensed premises in the area. But given the fact that the G51 project has now been shelved, I think Scotty maybe has a wee chance of getting the planning permission through to get a pub. Obviously don't know. The museum, maybe, but no, I think that'll probably go in. I'd love to see we Scotty get it, to be honest with you. I think it'd be nice to for him to get something back from the fans as well. But I think with the Mega Store, I'm just suggesting a gym. Use it for something. These guys that are coming in from America have far better ideas than what I've got.
No, and I back you up with doing something at the stadium, because for a couple of years back I did the Fat Fighters course down the Ibrox, where you get to come down to the and run around the park and sit in the seats and do a kind of fitness thing and run around the concourse. So doing something like that, I drove about an hour and a half to come and do it every Friday night. So I definitely think involving fitness and the fans in the stadium could be something that we look at. Ricky, another point that came up in the interview was the poor history of player trading. I think he done the figures for us, and it was something like 50 million player sales in 10 years, which, comparison over the city is terrible. That's something we're going to have to get better at, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. Our recruitment has been awful. For years. I mean, we've had some successes. Patterson coming through the system, and then we had Bassey, Aribo, especially Bassey was at £19 million he went Ajax for. But then you're looking at players that have left through bad management. Kent, Morelos, 16 million at one particular point. We kept him on. He walked away for free. Borna, as good as he was in his heyday, he walked away for free. Lindstrom, even Connor Golson. And Connor Golson, it was a good centre half for us, but we clung on, and again he went away over to Cyprus for free. This needs to stop. There's been a couple of comments. Raskin, I think we all agree, or certainly I would like to see him as made the club skipper, and we build the team round about him, because I think his attitude is fantastic. He's a good player and he's a sellable asset. Make him the man he'll want to stay. If he doesn't sign a new deal, then we've got to get rid of Raskin in the close season. We can't keep him for another season. And this is just a player trading model. If we want to emulate what Celtic have done with average players, but earning profits of £20 million in these average players, then we have to try and sort of get that right. And we've been woeful for it ever since we come back, really. Our budgets have not been great, to be fair, to bring the right players in, but since we've been back in the Premiership and competing, what would be £17 million in debt at the end of the financial year last year, against their whatever it was, multi-million pound profit. We're having to compete with that and still try and appease our fans. And as Ryan says, we're not that far away, but we need to get better from our more average players, because when you play a bigger, Diamand is an example, plays well in Europe, plays well in the bigger games, but he's just goes missing against the lesser opposition, and we cannot afford for that to happen going forward. These players need to be performing at the top of their game all the time. And again, it comes to competition in the bench. If the bench isn't strong enough, these guys are not worrying about the position, because mentally they know they're going to start in the starting 11. That all needs to change. That whole mindset needs to change. We need a strong squad, all competing at at least 80 to 90% of their capabilities every single time they go in that park.
Mark, I think that's a fair point. When you list the players off like that, Kent, Morelos, Goldson, even Barisic, I would even put Tavernier in there. At one point, he was top goal scorer in Europe or whatever, and whether we never had offers or not. But one thing is for sure, we weren't getting the transfer fees that other teams were getting for players that, in my opinion, weren't as good.
I think it's good points in it, but I think it's easier to sell a player that's winning as opposed to a player that's not winning. And I think that's where it comes from. I think did we hold on to them too long? I think that was the whole one with Kent and Morelos. But I think Gerrard's point to that was, well, you're not actually going to give me the money to put back in the squad, so why am I going to sell to my best players to replace them with somebody less? I think there is things in it, but I certainly think if you look at, I think we're focusing on Leeds a lot because of what's happened at Leeds, but I think we need to sort of look a wee bit more at Everton, because the two boys that are coming sort of had the Everton connection, and I think they were the same. They managed to get, I think, something like 25 million for Alex Iwobi. Now, that's good going, if you ask me. They done something well there for selling average players for something for good fees. But I think for us, I think it's easier. I think if we've got a winning team, I think Raskin's a good one. I know people have talked on Raskin, but he's had a good 6 months. His stock's high at the moment. If he's going to sort of renew his contract, he's got a potential Euros. Is it a Euros next year or a World Cup with Belgium if he stays playing the way he is and he's in the squad? If he's not going to renew it, I think the player trading model right now will be move him on. I think if he does sign a new deal, and I think the Amandi, if you're going to get a good figure from him, from Everton, supposedly, then I think that'll be the case. But then we're back to going, how many players are we having to sign and how quickly can this squad gel together? And I think that's my slight concern. I don't think we can sell all our sellable assets straight away. I know that player model's not been great, but I think when you get a winning team on the park, they be average players, then you can demand a wee bit more, because we signed, hypothetically, Scott Wright, who's a league winner, or we signed Connor Barron, who's a league winner, and he won the Scottish Cup and he done well in Europe, as opposed to the moment where we signed Connor Barron, he done okay, but he finished second and didn't win a cup. I think it's an easier sell when you're signing in players to other teams, that you're bringing in somebody that we're crying out for, and players that we're crying out for, which is a winning mentality, which we don't seem to have at the moment. So I think hopefully going forward it's easier then if you're doing really, really well in Europe and you can sell these players. And I think sometimes we've been handcuffed that we've had to get them off the wage bill. Cantwell, Lundstrom, Goldson, get the wage bill down, and then obviously you hear the rumours that you're still paying 25 grand a week for Matondo. So you're not quite sure where the balance is. But I think a better team on the park, and a winning team, you can obviously get more for your general squad players, whereas we've been sort of let loose, and sort of a Celtic seem to be selling squad players for 4 or 5 million, where we weren't even getting, we were getting $500,000 for Todd Cantwell or whatever it's sort of turned out to be.
Never mind paying players off like Cardozo, who ends up going away and having a good career elsewhere. Ryan, just focusing on Raskin and Diamandi, the situations are pretty different. Raskin, 2 years left. we really are at the point of if he doesn't sign a new deal, he needs to go. But I'd also be building the team around him based on his last 6 months. And then with Diamandi, we've got a couple of years left, well, a good few years left in his contract, so there's no great rush to force him out the door. Do you think we need more than one big sale this summer, or would you get by, or would more than get by with the one?
And even if we don't sell anybody, I'm not really that concerned. We just need to recruit properly coming in the way. If money comes across our desk that we can't refuse for our top players, then fine. I'm in the camp that we should sell Raskin. Like Mark said, he's had a good 6 months, but it is only 6 months. He's been with us for 2.5 years now. So where have the other 2 years been? Obviously had a bad injury and stuff, but we've got to recognise the trends when we should be selling players at peak value. Ricky spoke about all the guys there that we let go for nothing and having such a poor history of player trading. Everyone's saying keep Raskin, build it. No, sell him. We need to recognise the trends and where we're going wrong in the past and hold on for guys for too long. Now's the time to sell Raskin. It's there. If you look at Jack Butland, if we were sitting here last summer and I was sitting telling you, sell Jack Butland, you all think I was crazy. But look at him now. Now's the time to sell Raskin, but we have to bite the bullet. And as much as we love it, and nobody loves that wee guy more than me, by the way, I think he's absolutely fantastic. Every time he's playing, when he had his captain's armband on, the way he was handling McGregor when McGregor was trying to handle the referee, I've wanted a Rangers captain to do that for so many years. Not getting the Tavernier as much as what some of us do, but we need to recognise the trends, and it's for the better good. It's for the better of his career, and it's for the better of us. It's time to get this moving on. Diamandi, I think, probably has another season with us, and I think Diamandi next summer is your Nico Raskin, because I think a better coach will make a better player of Diamandi. I don't think Diamandi's a bad player. I think Diamandi becomes a better player and a better team. When he actually put more talented players around him, I think he starts to become a standout, and I think next summer's for him. And you might even be looking at even Eagleman, and you're selling 2 big players next season, and then you're bringing in another 5, 6, 7. So we need to get this right and get this moving. And Nico Raskin is the guy who's going. And I think there was a comment for Paul there that I want to come on to as well about guys not in the last 2 years of your deal. You either get sold, you either want to keep them, you extend their contract, or you sell them. Nobody should be leaving Rangers between the age of 21 and 30 in free transfers. It shouldn't be happening. Guys that might not make the grade by the age of 21, obviously they see their way out the door, fine. Some guys make it, some guys don't. Guys over the age of 30 sometimes don't hold great value, and sometimes we let them go because we can't find somebody that's willing to pay money for over 30s. But nobody should be leaving Rangers for nothing between 21 and 30 years old. We need to get better at that. And even when we haven't just spoken about Yanis Hadji, he was we're still at this bad trail. We just let a guy go who's the poster boy of Romanian football. He's walked out the door for nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I forgot to kind of mention him in it, but he is one that I'm disappointed that maybe he just wasn't as good a player as we'd hope, but he is, as you say, the poster boy for that country's national team. So to not get anything from him is a bit of a, not a surprise, just a bit of a disappointment. Ricky, I'll come to you just kind of final on you to get your thoughts on the Raskin Diamandi thing. Is it now time for Raskin to go? And I guess this is based on whether he signs a contract or not.
Well, I'm going to go against what Ryan was saying there. Raskin's at an age where he's not at his peak yet. I reckon we could still benefit from Raskin making the team better, extending him. If he doesn't extend, then he's got to go. But he's the one player I would extend and build a team around so we'll get success in the park. He's 23 years of age or something. So when he's sort of 24, 25, even 26, 2 years' time, that's when you can maximise profit from him. I know it's maybe a bit of a gamble, but you need to have a nucleus of a team where we're trying to qualify for this year's Champions League. We can't get rid of all the big hitters, and he is probably the only big hit we've got. So personally, for me, I would rather Raskin sign an extension and we built the team around about him and we make him a skipper. And then we get the kind of odds and sods of the squad players, for me, off the books if we can. And I include Matondo on that because he's such a high earner and he doesn't bring it into the party. But it's just people like the guys that are sitting in the best league on King. He's in Bajrami. I just don't think he's good enough for us going forward. So if we can recruit money back in him, maybe get a bit of profit. The other kind of players I would move on, not Raskin. we need to keep him at our club just for the benefit of getting the team better going forward to try and qualify for the Champions League. I desperately want us to qualify for this season's Champions League, and there's 2 rounds to do that, and then a one-off to get in there. But if these guys are true to what they're trying to say and they're going to back the manager who's going to come in hopefully this week, then why can't we qualify? But we need to have a decent side on the pitch, and Raskin for me is key to that.
Yeah, Bayrami's a weird one. It might just be his body language. He just does not look like he wants to be here, does he? So, Ryan, sorry, I've just seen you miss. You come back in.
Yeah, just on that, what Ricky was saying, as far as keeping him for another couple of years and moving him forward, see in 2 years' time, see the clubs that are potential we would look at him now, they'll not want him in 2 years' time. The clubs that we'll be looking at, you're probably looking kind of middle to lower end of the Premier League. You're probably looking at teams like Everton, Leeds, Crystal Palace, these kind of guys that will probably come in and be willing to pay £20 million from now, in the hope that in 2 years' time, they'll be at 26, 27 when he's reaching his peak, they'll be able to move him on for the big money. Your 50, your 60s, your £70 million to your Chelsea's, your Barcelona, all the kind of bigger teams that, you look at what Leeds did with Rafinha as a prime example. So see in 2 years' time, he probably won't go up in value in 2 years' time. There's a ceiling value for players in Scotland as well. You're never probably going to ever see a 40 or £50 million player leaving Scotland. Not in this moment in time, obviously with inflation stuff, it probably will eventually happen. But it's now, or basically, like you said, build the whole team around him. But you're asking the boy to sign to us for the rest of his career, and I don't think the aspirations he's got, certainly now he's broken into the Belgian team, I don't think he'll do it. I think he will be.
Just want to say to Cammy, thanks for joining us, Cammy, and putting some comments in. I don't think I've ever seen one of your comments come up when I've been on. Usually we're on the pod together, but hey ho. Ryan, I'm going to stay with you because I wanted to talk about another point that was brought up, and that was the stadium improvements and possible improvements. They've been known. Well, America. I don't know if you've been in an American stadium, but the footprint of it is not just the grass in the stands. It's shopping centres. It's entertainment. As a fan going regularly, it's something that I think we would want. But do you think it's going to be a priority at the moment?
In the next kind of couple of years, I think the guys will probably want to come in and find their feet first of all. I think the word campus is what's the kind of term that they're looking for it. So they'll be looking to get a hotel on site, certainly. Probably more so for when their own use, for when they come to town, they've actually got a hotel on site. It'll be part of the overall hospitality package as well, that there's a hotel on site for guests and dignitaries when they come as part of it. I don't know if they'll have an influence in getting the transport link sorted out as well. There was always rumours that Ibrox would become a transport stop, a train stop, with a link up to Glasgow Airport. So I don't know if they'll have any kind of influence in Parliament with that. I'd like to think they will do when they can talk about how successful they think they're going to be with it. Car parking's a problem as well. I'd like to see them do whatever they need to do to get the Albion car park back, because that was sold. I think Rangers get £1 million on that. I think it was just a lump sum, £1 million. So what do we need to do to get that back? So there's all sorts of facilities that could be better. There's lots of ground in and around the stadium that we can go and get. I think we all agree that Edmondson House probably isn't what we thought it was going to be, is what we kind of hoped it was going to be. But I think a lot to do with the size. Edmondson House was getting an alcohol licence granted for it. So I think if you were going to make a massive venue in such a residential area, I don't think you would get the planning permission through for it. So I think the size of it was governed by the alcohol licence being granted. But there's plenty of scope. I wonder if Glasgow City Council will be interested in selling the primary school across the road. I think that would be one of the questions I'd be asking. So obviously it's an old building. Are the council that interested in maintaining and keeping an old building going? I don't think it's flooded with pupils as far as I know as well. So would the council like to sell it and reinvest the money and maybe build another school elsewhere? So there's scope, but baby steps.
Fair enough. Mark, they may come up against something that they won't expect, and that's maybe the kind of small-minded mentality that we've got sometimes in this country when it comes to how things are run, and a lot of the times it's just if somebody doesn't like something, it gets knocked back. They're going to have this financial might to take a lot of folk to the cleaners if it comes to laws being not broken, but things not being done properly. Can you see that being a route they go down to force changes so they can do things like open up the transport links back to the stadium?
You certainly can, you? Everybody looks at America, don't you? And everybody loves to complain and put claims in and all that earlier and try and stop things. So I think they'll maybe they're in a bigger scale as well. But I think for us, I think they will face challenges. I don't doubt that. And it'll be narrow-mindedness, or people know what to see Rangers prosper or get bigger, and I think that's where it'll come. It's divided in it. Let's face facts. The country, we're divided in two. I know Glasgow anyway, it's divided in two. So anything that we want to do, which is sort of for the benefit of us and our supporters, and but it's match the experiences and things they want to get in and about the stadium, will come up for opposition against a team that normally get Glasgow City Council to pay for this. You know what I mean? So that's what will sort of happen, I think, and hopefully, I'm hoping, as I say, that they can get these things in place. I think, as you said, you touched on it earlier, there's a 3-year plan to up 10,000 seats on the stadium, and I think that's the sort of things that they'll be looking at and having a sort of a 5-10-year plan. Whereas I don't think we sort of had that at the moment. We were trying to fit steel. It wasn't even in the country yet, and at the start of the summer and various bits and pieces, where I don't think we'll have any of the issues anymore. That's what we're hoping anyway. Everything can sort of start to run smoothly. They will come up against opposition, but unfortunately for a lot of other players and people in about, they'll have more money than anybody else to sort of go down the court route. And I think obviously money normally wins, doesn't it, at the end of the day when it comes to it.
Well, look, we've gone over 50 minutes. I want to spend a couple more minutes just talking about the impact of the last couple of days. It is a momentous time for us. Ryan, we're not only looking forward to a new manager, a new coach coming in, but also hopefully a big influx of players and maybe some outgoing players as well. Let's touch on the manager side first. Have you got a preference at the moment? And it can be, doesn't have to be the favourites, but who are you looking for to come in?
Of the names that I currently mentioned, Ancelotti, I was very much in the Team Gerrard camp. He's obviously withdrawn. Okay. He's withdrawn his name from the discussions now. So, of the names that are still circulating, I would prefer Ancelotti. I know there's a certain amount of gamble behind it, but there was quite a large gamble when Souness came back to the club, because Souness obviously at the time had no managerial experience, but had quite a big name on the back of his shirt. So I'd be quite happy with Ancelotti if and when it happens.
Good stuff. And in regards to players coming in, how many do you think we really need?
I think we need about 15 out and about 20 in. No, and I don't think we'll see as many as that going out. I think it'll be quite difficult. There's contracts and agents that you make happy, and obviously you need to find suitors for it as well. But if I had my way, I'd be moving. But if I had my way, I'd a list of 15 down that I would like to see go. We actually did a pod on it a few weeks ago. Not even a few weeks ago, sorry, last week it was. Doug was on. Forgive me if I can't remember who else was on at the time. Ross, I think, was another one. And we spoke about basically layers. Mark, were you on it? Sorry, forgive me, mate, I'm sorry. But we spoke about layers of guys that we were basically wanting on. It was like basically phase 1, get rid of these guys. Phase 2, Dowell, Davies, Matondo, Cifuentes. Next one, and basically goes through the list. I think we got to about 15 at the end of it. Some of it was quite harsh, but I think we need to be harsh because the guys that are underperforming. So I'd be looking for as many as that. I think it's unrealistic considering we're 6-7 weeks away from the first lot of Champions League qualifiers. But I'm very much, quantity over quality at this moment in time, I think is the way to put it. I think we need a lot more guys in that'll be willing to play 30 to 40 games a season, because there's too many guys in there that are frankly stealing a wage.
Ricky, it might just be your concentration face, but it looks like you maybe disagree there. What's your thoughts on the playing side?
I'd love to see what Ryan's saying come to fruition. I don't know it'll happen as quickly as we'd all like it to happen, but that is the kind of turnover that's probably required. I totally agree with what Ryan's saying. I think one of the things you've not touched on is, maybe it's another pod, but the naming rights of the stadium. I think that's going to be high on the agenda of the board. And I wouldn't be adverse to renaming Ibrox if it's bringing money in. I know it's controversial, but if you look at all the bigger clubs across the whole of the world, they don't have the original stadium names because it's all to do with money. And if we want to invest that money into the pitch, then we have to go and modernise and go to whoever's going to offer the most money to the renaming of the stadium. Again, it's probably another pod, but listen, when we're not at it, the whole team, could be getting replaced. So as Ryan said, 15 out, 20 in, would be absolutely fantastic. It isn't going to happen because we do need some continuity. And ironically, I think Tav will still be there next season. I don't think it'll be the number one right back for us, but I'd like to see him stay because I think the influence, I think he's very well respected. He's very well liked, and I think it could be a help to us next season. But he cannot be our skipper and our starter right back, but and certainly not right back. If anything, if he's going to play, I'd rather play him a little bit further forward with his insulin the games. As far as just quickly, Billy, on the manager, I would give MD that's coming in 100% backing, and I don't like the negative sort of vibes that people are all against Russell Martin. I think Russell Martin would be a great manager for us, only because of what he's done both down in England with Milton Keynes and Swansea. He was idolised, 80% possession with those teams, idolised at Southampton, got them up, and basically I think he's sticking to his guns as most managers do nowadays, and he fell short because he never had the quality on the pitch. Russell Martin would bring a lot of good qualities to Rangers. I'm not saying that's who I want, but he would certainly get my back, and that's who the board go with.
Who would you want if it was just up to you?
Ancelotti.
Okay, fair dues. And yet, Mark in the comments has mentioned it a couple of times that about a loan move for Patterson to come back, who could take over as right back. I've not seen any links or rumours to that myself, but it'd be an interesting one. Mark, let me come to you finally on. Give me your thoughts on the manager first of all. Who your preference would be?
Very much like Ryan. I was Team Gerrard all the way, to be honest. It's somebody that, a safe pair of hands that knew the club. I thought that was the right way to go. But right now, for the names that's been mentioned, I would prefer Ancelotti. I get Russell Martin, 80% possession. A lot of it was in his own box. 3 passes, we were at halfway line at Ibrox when teams sit so deep. I get that. Possession-based. Gio was possession-based. Clement was possession-based. And look where that left us. So I think there's maybe sticking to his guns doesn't help. We've had a few managers doing that as well. But for me, Team Ancelotti now, as Gerrard's out the equation. I think that sort of I think we need a name. I think he's not all the clubs. I know he's there with his dad, and I get that. But you're not all the clubs, and you're not respected if you're not a good coach. How do you go from Mbappe to Ross McCausland? I'm not quite sure how he goes and deals with that, but there is that. I think his backroom team, is going to be massive for somebody that's never been in this country. If it's him, I think that's the big one. I think his backroom team has to sort of understand. We've had full managers before. I remember everybody jumping in the bandwagon, and Paul Le Guen was coming, and we were all delighted and didn't just quite get it. It was okay to have one each at Inverness, and that's sort of not where we want to be. I think we're looking for a fresh start. They did say that, I think somebody in the media said weeks ago it would have nobody with a Rangers connection. So that's sort of ruled out. You like, say, Gerrard sort of coming back and Muscat coming in and various bits and pieces like that. So it will be interesting. Very similar to Ricky, and I think every other Rangers fan out there, we've all got our preferences, but on Thursday night or Wednesday night or tomorrow, when there's the guy standing there with a scarf above his head, then he'll get our full backing. And I think that's sort of where we will go from it. I agree with Ryan. I think we've already 6 out. I think I can see another 6 going, maybe 6 or 7. So that would take you to 13 maybe out. And I think you're sort of looking to replace at least that. Whether that happens in this window or there's a percentage at this window with another sort of a Christmas window, sort of maybe 7 or 8 out and some more in if they've still got some people hanging about the fringes that we can't quite get off the wage bill. And then from that, I think you'll see a full turnaround. Hopefully we'll get enough then. And as this season, we get everybody in and we hit the ground running, we go and get a good first of the league and sort of reclaim top spot, and then look to kick it on. I think that's sort of the way everybody wants instant success, but will that happen? We all pray and hope to God, but there's sort of one gains in that you would take, isn't there, over others, and sort of winning the league back, as I said earlier on, would be a number one priority. Europe, I'm no fussed about, to be honest. It's great. It's great to do it. It's fantastic, but I want 50,000 people in that stadium and then another 100,000 at George Square, swinging off a lamppost, to be honest. That's what I'm looking for.
I'm going to give Ryan a full sweep because I agree with Ryan as well. I was in Gerard's camp, and I think most of us were in their chats anyway. Well, maybe not Cammy, but most other folk were. But I'm fully behind, to be honest with you. I don't know enough about Russell Martin, but I'm very happy if it would be Ancelotti. So I guess we'll see, hopefully, within the next 24 to 48 hours. Ryan, mate, I'll just say to you, thank you very much for coming on, mate. It's been good to talk to you.
No, pleasure, guys. Hopefully some good news over the next 40 hours, as you said.
And Ricky, mate, yeah, nice to see you again. It's been a couple of weeks since we've been on together, but thanks for coming on, mate.
Yeah, thanks for the chat, lads, and to the viewers. I really enjoyed it, and I'll see you next week.
So you're not going to be on this pod, you've mentioned a few times.
Well, yeah. I'd love to be on it, but this kind of time suits me. The later pod times are not good for me. I'm early start in the morning, so these kind of late pods are.
We can look forward to listening to it at least. And again, last but not least, Mark, thank you very much for coming on, mate. It's been good to chat.
No, guys, always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
I'll mention our sponsor again, offtothematchigo.co.uk, and you get 10% off all over there if you just use the code Journal10. So it just leaves me to thank everyone for watching. Thank you for your comments. Hopefully being able to interact with them. And remember, every night is a Rangers Journal night. Good night.